I don't know if you've been on Instagram lately or if you've seen Laura Nachtigall's post on Instagram where she shared a slideshow of several things she wanted to address about herself running for board of directors again. Man, Laura Nachtigall really loves to contradict herself. I don't know what it is. She lies on paper, she lies in video, but then she says you're putting words in her mouth. Like, which is it, Laura? Is your written word the truth, or is your verbal word the truth? Because I have both, and they both contradict themselves. So what is it? Okay, so the first thing she says, she introduces herself, talks about being a well-respected governor. I don't know about well-respected, but I'm sure other than the things that I had to disagree with her own, she does just fine on, so no harm there. And yes, let's address the obvious, I am transgender as well. In case you didn't know, Laura Nachtigall is transgender, that's whatever. She says, I appreciate and understand some of you are concerned with that. I am advocating for making and keeping disc golf a more enjoyable experience for as many people as possible. That will include transgender people as well, for they are people. Which is fine. Nothing wrong with that statement whatsoever. Nobody is trying to remove transgender people from disc golf. That is not happening. That is not what I represent. I have even put forth ideas on how to keep them in there and for it to be more fair. That's what the point is. It should be more fair, not just what is currently happening. That's all I've ever said. Not trying to remove them, not trying to remove Laura, technically. Maybe from the board of directors, but you know, not in general. Of course, I understand the concern there is that I, being transgender myself, will make special policy to protect and improve my own position and that of those like me, which is what we believe. Yes, we all believe that. She says that is not the kind of governor I am. She says my goal is to get and keep as many people as content to be playing this amazing sport. Okay, I mean, that's no different than anybody else. And once again, she brings up diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of the pillars of how I attempt to achieve that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, as though there's a problem with diversity, as though there's no equity, and as though there's no inclusion. Why are you trying to fix things that aren't technically broken? If anything is broken about it, it's that there's not enough equity. There's not enough fairness in what you're saying. That's the problem that I have with you, is you're ignoring parts of the science that are against what you believe in, and you yourself has said to me directly through messages that you don't believe either way that science has proven one way or the other, as far as whether or not it's fair or not for transgenders to be playing in women's disc golf. So my perspective of that is, until you can prove one way or the other, we shouldn't be already implementing one, especially one that is so old and ancient. I mean, it's already been proven wrong. That whole entire IOC from 2015 research, it included only 8 people, and it included the person that did the research. And it was for running, it's for runners. It wasn't anything to do with disc golf. Every sport is different. I think every sport needs to do their own research and use that. That's what I think should happen. Laura says here, the PDGA created in 2010 and amended in 2019 its transgender policy. So in 2019, the PDGA updated their policy on transgenders to the 2015 IOC policy. Now, Laura says, I was not on the board for either vote, nor did I seek to influence either vote. So she wasn't on the board in 2019 is what she's saying. She was put on the board later that year, which is interesting because she was interim board member in Europe and claimed that she had a foot in the door. And I'm going to show you the video and watch this in full, because she completely This says, I was not on the board for either vote. Okay, that doesn't mean that you didn't have an influence, which you did, nor did I seek to influence either vote. She sought to, and she did.
In 2018, as I had already started taking hormones, I got my surgery date. And at that point, I'll remind you, I was not on the board of directors. I was the interim admin for PDGA Europe. So I was connected to the PDGA, so I had an inside, I had an in with the PDGA, backdoor, if you will. But at the moment I knew my surgery date, I thought to myself, at this moment, I will no longer have a conflict of interest for pushing for either of the rules to be the current one. It would be good if the PDGA adopted the newer, in a way stricter, but less awkward, as what Kelly referred to, like what is in your underwear. You shouldn't have to disclose that. And for many people, it's even financially unobtainable. So you could not play in a tournament because you still have male body parts. At that point, I asked the then PDGA board of directors, would you be interested in actually looking at this again, but with more intent? I was told they actually had been working on that already. And my involvement from then on was basically me having the backdoor entrance with the PDGA. I said, just like Kelly did then when she was asked, I'll supply you all of my paperwork so you can get the procedure streamlined. You know what to ask for, you know what to look for, you know what to expect. This is all my paperwork. Look at it, use it, incinerate it after you're done, whatever's necessary. But yeah, I helped streamline the procedure by supplying my data. And from pretty much November 2018 onwards, when the medical committee was formed, which actually happened as a result of this difficult task, and it shouldn't be on the PDGA board's shoulders, but please have it done by medical experts. So the medical committee was formed, and they reviewed all of the paperwork, they reviewed the guidelines stipulated by the IOC. And in February 2019, they said, yeah, let's do this. Oh, and by the way, Laura, you already submitted your documents as per document to request it from tomorrow on. But here, boom, here's your approval. For the fall summit in Callaway Gardens, the competition committee put forward a document to us, to the board of directors, asking whether or not the PDGA should adopt the then recently activated IOC guidelines that said no longer is the surgery the only way. You actually just need to meet the requirement on keeping your testosterone levels low enough for long enough, uninterrupted. That was literally days after I had hedged myself. So I kept quiet on the personal front, but I was like, I think we should do this. But I didn't push for anything. I was just like, we would need to do this, but my personal involvement was zero in that.
You even called it a backdoor yourself. You said you had a backdoor because you were the intern admin at PDGA Europe. So you literally did have an influence on what, maybe you didn't vote, but that's a conflict of interest. You were involved in it. You were involved in it. Why are you lying to people? You were involved in it. You supplied the data that caused the change. That's what you did. How is that not involved? Just because you didn't vote for it doesn't mean that you were involved. You literally said you did not seek to influence, but you said in video that you did think that they should do that. So you had influence. And then of course, you get back on the board in 2019. Does that seem a little fishy to y'all? Does it really? It should. She says, in 2021, as a board member, I voted for the medical committee to review the current policy, which they are currently researching and reviewing. That will result in a recommendation to the board, none of which I have any control over. Now, I went and looked up the minutes of the meetings on the PDGA website, which you can all do. You can go look and it'll tell you what all they covered. And the only thing I could find that said anything about it was from the December, it was technically October 21st. If you look at it, it'll say December 17th, 2021 meeting, but it was October 21st, 2021 when it was updated, where Elaine King brought up the discussion of eligibility. There was no vote on that. There was no voting on anything that I saw on any of the minutes of the meetings that pertains to a policy change in regards to that. So I don't know where she's getting that, because it's not on the meetings. That was something off the books or something that's not been spoken of. And fun fact, why would she be reviewing the policy in 2021 anyway? Why what is she wanting it to change to where it's not gonna, transgenders are not gonna be eligible? No, of course not. Of course not. I've already told y'all what she's trying to do, and you're about to witness it here on this channel, and you're about to see what they said at the minute on the meeting. In the meeting, go look at it. I will put the one up, and I'll even put the link to it on the channel right here below, so you can see what was said about that. And I'm going to read it to you right now. Elaine King also mentioned that the WC and medical committee have been discussing the eligibility requirements for competing in gender-based divisions. The PDGA currently follows the latest International Olympic Committee standards, but there are plans for the International Olympic Committee to relook their policy after the Winter Olympics in China. The PDGA will review the updated IOC policy once released and will reassess our own policies at that time. Huh. She makes it seem like that they want to review the current policy, but she doesn't mention what they're reviewing or that they're going to be changing it to update to what the IOC is doing. She just says that, oh, well, we're looking at the policy. We're looking at it. But, you know, so basically, like I've been saying, that they're going to change the policy. They're not going to adjust it so that it's more fair. They're going to make it easier for a transgender person to get in the sport without even having to be on testosterone blockers. You could just be a transgender person and get into the sport. That's basically, if you look at what the IOC has been playing around with, that's what's going to happen. So it's going to be worse. And also, did you know that there was a diversity and outreach task force? I did not know that. I also did not know that, I believe on the May 10th meeting, which is updated March 2021, JM provided an update from the last DNO, which is Diversity and Outreach Task Force. One of the main items was a recommendation that the PDGA strongly consider a redesigned logo with a more diverse image. This was voted on in committee 7-0 in favor of making this recommendation to the board, as the Diversity and Outreach Task Force does not believe the current PDGA logo is at all inclusive. The logo is not inclusive, it's a logo. They're wanting to change the logo because it's not diverse enough or inclusive enough. The logo, the PDGA logo. And fun thing, right after that, literally right after that, below it, Laura Naxagal recommended to JM, Justin Minikeli that is, that the Diversity and Outreach Task Force consider adding an international member to the task force. Gee, I wonder what international member would possibly try to be being on the task force that decides diversity and outreach and such. Wonder who's going to be applying for that one. Who do you think? This is the last thing she says. I do sincerely hope that if you vote during the coming election, that you cast your vote based on my platform and what I stand for, which is exactly what I'm going to do, based on what you stand for, which is against fairness in the sport. She also says that you do not reduce your vote for or against me to me being transgender. Me not voting for you has nothing to do with you being transgender. I could give a shit less if you're transgender. That doesn't mean anything to me, but it's your inability to tell the truth, and you're lying to people to their face. You know, you hide out behind this whole agenda. You won't talk to anybody that opposes you, you say one thing one minute and then you say something else the next, and then nobody knows what to believe. You have an agenda and you have a conflict of interest. That is why I will not vote for you. I just don't agree with the way that you're approaching this. It's like you're fighting for something that's already happening, that is already open. It's there, it exists already. How are you going to fight for something that's already exists? That's what I'm saying. Then the reason why is because you're using that to hide behind your own agenda, because you want to cover up that, oh, well, I want all kinds of diversity, not just my people, all kinds. You're not fooling me. I saw through you a long time ago, and I see through you right now. We could have diversity, equity, and inclusion without you on the board. And I think we should.